My name's Ross. I'm from Scotland. I'm now 55, coming on 56. And in November 1986, believe it or not, I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, ALL. At that stage, I was 20, going to college, going out with my mates, all the usual stuff that everyone does. But I was suddenly aware of being breathless, running for the bus and getting more and more tired, things like that. I was off my work for 2-3 days, and gradually, or quickly rather, the symptoms were getting worse and worse, more and more breathless, so that I was struggling to go up and down stairs, getting very tired, lacking in energy, not interested in food, that kind of thing. As regards other symptoms of leukemia or anything like that, there was no signs of any bruising or bleeding or anything like that. So that was really it. But by the end of the following week, things were getting worse, and I was just lying in my bed. So eventually, a GP came to the house, a doctor, and he suggested I go to the local hospital for a chest X-ray. So that I did. Got back to the house, and within half an hour, the doctor was at the door. They'd taken one look at the X-rays and decided that one of my lungs was full of fluid and the other lung was half full of fluid. So immediately they wanted me to go to the hospital, the other hospital, to get admitted there. That was on the Friday. On the Saturday, they did more chest X-rays and that kind of thing. But at that stage, they were thinking I had pleurisy at worst. There was never any suggestion of anything else. However, on the Sunday, I was moved into a dreaded side room in the ward, which is never a good thing. And they also intimated at that point that they were bringing a consultant in off of the golf course on the Sunday to see me. So he then proceeded to carry out a bone marrow biopsy without any introduction or discussion about what it actually meant or what it could mean. So in the room that I was in the side room on the bed, I got this bone marrow biopsy carried out, first one ever, first of many now. And at that point, while he was washing his hands, I asked him what's going on. And first time I met the guy, very nice he was, but he at that point said, "We think you've got leukemia." Now bear in mind, in 1986, leukemia was just a big word, to which nobody in the general public really knew anything about or had heard about, etc. So it was just a big word that didn't really mean a great deal apart from you were likely to die. So at that stage, you're like, what do I do now? 20 years old, and they've told me this god-awful news. So he left the room, and you're left in this side room on your own, watching TV. A nurse came in to chat with you. My parents came, and thereafter things kind of rolled on in a roller coaster of various treatments and chemotherapy, more bone marrow tests, blood transfusions, all that kind of stuff, with a view to getting a bone marrow transplant, or a stem cell transplant as they're now called, in the January of the following year. Unfortunately, that didn't happen for various reasons, so it got put off into the March. So on the 28th of March 1987, I'm glossing over some of the gory details here, but on the 28th of March 1987, I received a bone marrow transplant. It was an autologous transplant, which means that they used my own bone marrow. They effectively took another biopsy, not a biopsy, but a full bone marrow donation, if you like, cleaned the marrow up, blasted me with radiotherapy and chemo, ready to receive the new marrow at the end of the following week. So, as I say, on the 28th of March, that was a day, Saturday, that I got my bone marrow transplant. everybody thinks at that stage everything's great, but it's a long road from there. At that stage, I'd gone into the bone marrow unit weighing 10 stone 9 or something like that, 10.5 stone, and I came out 3 weeks later weighing 6 stone 9. So losing that amount of weight over that short period of time is not a good, it's not a good look. So there's a long road after that to rebuild yourself physically, mentally. Although I've got to say the mental health issue wasn't really discussed, wasn't trendy at that time, whereas just now it's a huge issue that everybody, quite rightly, pays a lot of attention to. So to cut a long story short, I suppose, through a lot of support from family and friends and obviously the medical team, eventually, a year and a half later, you get back to work. But that's when a lot of issues kick in your mental health. When you suddenly realise that everybody you were at college with has moved on, or your friends have moved on, and the life you had before isn't really there, and you've got to try and change your life to suit and catch up with everyone else that's moved on. So that's basically a quick resume, of you like, of how it all went, with some huge gaps in between, with the usual stories of sickness and blood transfusions and struggles with various physical aspects to rebuild your life. So I think one of the big issues now is that there's a lot of charities, Leukemia Care, other charities like that. They in particular run the Spot Leukemia campaign, and I think out of all of this, you realise through the years how important it is to try and spot the symptoms and recognise the symptoms and kind of pay them some kind of respect. It's possibly a bit easier now for GPs to recognise the symptoms and, as I say, treat them with some kind of respect and get as early a diagnosis as possible. Because obviously the earlier you get checked, the earlier you get spotted, the earlier you get treated, and the better the chance there is of a successful cure.